This is Mastering Your Wealth with David Gagnon, the podcast.
Welcome to the show, folks. We appreciate you joining us. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. My name is Jessica, alongside here with David, each and every single week, right here for Mastering Your Wealth Radio. Really, the title says it all. We want you to be in control and understand your financial future, understand your retirement, and enjoy the wealth that you've built. As always, David, welcome, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, Jessica, I'm doing good. How you doing today?
I am doing amazing. Glad to be back here with you. I know you've been busy in the office. What are folks calling about?
Well, some people are worried about getting their RMDs out in time and questions about whether they needed to take it and how to do it and how to calculate it. Every year, we start in October. We have a big spreadsheet of everybody that needs to take RMDs, and a lot of times we're going to set up most clients on an automatic distribution each year that's calculated by their custodian, and it helps us save some time in analyzing everybody's accounts on an individual basis because we have thousands of accounts, so it would be kind of daunting for us to look at each one every year in the fall. But year-end tax planning, people are concerned about. They want to know if there's something they can do to cut the tax bill down. And so we'll take a look at what has transpired over the year with what they collected in income, and if they have any brokerage accounts where we can do some tax loss harvesting, if they have that ability to do so, and or Roth conversions or Roth alternative conversions. So we look at a lot of different things to try to mitigate taxes and be more tax efficient. And people are, before the election, they were worried about the market. People, I think, very comfortable in the last few weeks. And you should always be in a position so you don't have to worry about the what ifs if something were to happen and you're exposed to market volatility, because I think it's important to design airbags on your money, and that's what we try to do with most investment plans.
You know, in the weeks after the election, it seemed like the stock market was going up, 200 to 300 points a day. The Trump bump, as they say, was in full effect. Then the president-elect made his first announcement about plans for tariffs on foreign products. 25% on Mexico and Canada, and another 10% on China. The market reacted with a 300-point drop. The market shook off the tariffs, this time, but has a lot of people talking, a lot of people concerned. Is this a preview of, some possible volatility we could see in 2025, David? And of course, should it be a concern for people close to retirement with a lot of their 401k money in the market? How do we protect ourselves?
I think all this talk about the tariffs has spooked people, and people aren't sure how things might impact their investments in the Wall Street side of the industry. But if you think back to Trump's last administration, he posed tariffs. And where did the market go? It steadily increased over the years. And inflation was low, economy was rolling pretty good. And when you look back to prior to 1913, we didn't pay taxes prior to that. And what happened back in those days, the government was getting their revenues through tariff agreements and things like that. And in 1913, when they imposed the tax, it was supposed to be a temporary tax, which started at 7%. But then the government saw how good that was to collect all those tax revenues, and it was like they were addicted to it, and then they stayed with it. And we've seen tax rates go as high as 94% back in the 40s. During the World War. So I think the markets are going to do fine. I think with these economic policies that they're talking about implementing, I think it's going to help the consumer. I think it's going to help the market. But the bottom line is you want to invest to achieve the ability to capitalize when the markets do well, but also have some buffers, some hedges on the downside. And these are techniques that when we work with clients, we look at and evaluate their investment plan strategies to make sure their investments are aligned with what their needs call for in their analysis for the types of solutions and the benefits they need to create with their money. But we also make sure we try to minimize the market risk, and we do it in a number of different ways. And there are things that we use that are strategic management techniques or proactive tactical management portfolios that the wealthy actually use because they're wealthy for a reason. They do things differently. And there's different product types that can eliminate the downside of the market and only capture the upside and provide some other benefits.
We've talked plenty of times, David, on the show about annuities and how they offer guaranteed income for life that can cover basic expenses in retirement. But who should you buy them from? That's the big question. Here is annuity advocate Cheryl Moore on winkintel.com.
If you're talking with somebody about annuities and they can't answer your questions about how it works, what it's good for, why you might want it, if they don't listen to what you're saying, those things are red flags for me.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of red flags when you're sitting down. If they're not listening to you, if they're not really taking into account your thoughts, your concerns, because especially when it comes to guaranteed income, we all know that the number one fear is running out of money. So guaranteed income, the annuities, these conversations come up a lot as different tools and strategies to alleviate that stress. So, David, I know you offer a wide variety of annuity products. Talk to me about this conversation, how you go about recommending which one is best.
Before you even start talking about annuities, you should work off of a plan analysis for the person that you're consulting with and identify if an annuity really is going to be the right fit for part of their investment plan strategy. And you always want to do your forecast analysis and look into the future with what you're presently doing. If you have no annuities, we can see in the future if you're going to run out of money or you're taking too much risk to get the income you need to generate for your lifetime. It's a problem that people are running into today. People are running out of money. So when we see the details of their analysis, we can identify, in fact, they do need an annuity and they need some lifetime income built into their plan. And so the analysis is important first, and then they can see in their own numbers what the problems are that we'll point out and what are the strategies and the solutions we can implement and incorporate into their planning so we fix the problem. And so the annuities, there's all kinds of annuities. And if somebody's going to buy an annuity from somebody, the question that they should ask that annuity salesperson is, how do you know this is the right thing for me and my finances if I don't have a plan? How do you know this is going to really be a good fit for me? And it's like putting the cart before the horse. If you're an investment person or an insurance product salesperson and you're recommending people invest in your products, well, then how do you know as an advisor you're providing the best advice for them and where their money should be allocated? And so the plan has to come first. And here's the thing that I see over and over again. People are saving their money. They're putting money into their retirement accounts, their brokerage accounts. And when I talk to these folks and I'll ask them, what have you been doing for planning? Do you have a plan? Well, I save into a 401k, I save into my IRA, or I have a brokerage account, I have CDs. Those are just tools. That is not a plan. And a lot of times when we do the plan analysis and the forecast and we do the investment x-ray to see if your investments are truly aligned with what your needs are going to require, I find that people are way out of whack. They're not investing in the right places for the planning objectives they need to solve for. And so you have to have a plan first. And now there's all kinds of annuities. There's fixed annuities, there are indexed annuities, there's variable annuities, there's immediate annuities. And when people talk about annuities, they talk about the annuities in general terms. Each annuity has different features, pros and cons. And the variable annuities come with very high fees. I don't like them. I don't use them. Yeah, so you can see there's so many different options in the annuity landscape and to determine if it's really the right fit.
So what's stopping people from achieving the American dream? There's a new poll by YouGov that found that the cost of living and housing are at the top of the list. Also making the top 5 was taxes, which could always move up to the number 1, for some, of course. So why is this happening? And David, is there anything that you can do about it?
Well, a lot of people are struggling with, obviously, inflation. Things are getting very expensive or have been very expensive in the last few years. And what people have been finding out is they're taking money from their accounts and their distribution rate now is becoming higher than what they're earning on their money. So they can see their erosion of principal occurring. And it really has a lot of people on edge when they see that. They're going backwards. That's all they see. So, what we do is we're always talking about planning. And when somebody reaches out to us that isn't a client, what I'm looking for is all the inefficiencies in their financial decisions and how they manage their money. And there are a lot of areas that it could be costing you dearly in how you, for instance, finance and pay off your home. We look at your debt structuring and your mortgages, and we look at ways to maybe find some better ways to finance and pay off that home. I mean, if you have a 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, that 15-year mortgage is going to put 22% more stress on your monthly payment. Your monthly payment's going to be that much higher. And sometimes it doesn't make sense to have a 15-year mortgage. So, that's just one area. But how people fund their retirement plans, how they pay their taxes. A lot of people are accumulating way too much money in tax-deferred retirement accounts, and they're out of tax diversification when they get to retirement. And when the RMDs kick in, the required minimum distributions, we show them when we do their plan analysis that the RMDs are going to become a big tax problem for you. So since you haven't retired yet and you're fairly young, we can look at ways to mitigate those high RMDs and unnecessary taxes that you might be exposed to. A lot of people are still incurring debt, and the debt payments are overwhelming if they're on a variable interest rate change, which a lot of debts now have seen big increases with the increase in interest rates over the last few years. So we're looking at how to show people how to set up a repayment plan to accelerate the payoff without changing their lifestyle. There's techniques that you can use in debt repayment plan strategies to get out of that debt quicker and out from under those high interest rates. So there are things that people are doing with their money that's affecting them in a negative way, that's in their blind spot. And when people give us the opportunity to help them and let our eyes from the outside looking into what you're doing, evaluate what you're doing, now we can uncover some ways that are affecting you in a negative way, and then we can show you and teach you how to implement a plan strategy to really optimize your resources by avoiding these inefficiencies, these wealth transfers that are occurring unknowingly, unnecessarily. And planning has a lot of moving parts, right? There's so many variables. And it's, you get your paycheck, then it's what you do with that check that hits your account every week or every month, and how you manage that, where you allocate your dollars, whether it's your basic necessities of living, your groceries and your gas and your insurances and all that, but then what's set aside for your future needs, whether it's college funding or retirement, how you put your money in different areas that might get taxed differently. So you have to look at the unnecessary taxes you might be paying and how you're allocating your funds. So planning is a big puzzle, and I always encourage people to at least let us do that second opinion for you with the complementary forecast analysis, and we also do a portfolio investment analysis. Mm-hmm. We're able to compile a ton of information when we go through that process and that exercise, and I do it for a reason, and the reason why we do it complementary is the fact is people aren't getting this help. They're not getting plans put together or identifying what is it that they're doing today that is either hurting them or could be done differently to help them. And a lot of people reach out to us that are working with what they feel are advisors, but these are people that can't answer questions when it comes to very important planning decisions, whether when do you take your Social Security? How do you optimize that? How do you optimize your pension decisions? How do you have a backup strategy for out-of-pocket health care? How do you reduce your taxes in the future instead of compound them into the future? And so we wear a lot of hats. We create a lot of value with real planning. And then the last discussion we ever have after we do all that analysis is how should you have your money invested and allocated?
At the end of the year, the stock market often sees a little bit of a lift here. Some believe this year's boost will be bigger. Here's market analyst Scott Shalati on Fox Business.
The 5 days in between Christmas and New Year's, and maybe the first couple days into the next year, that's the Santa Claus rally time that we all talk about. And about 75 to 80% of the time, that market goes up in a normal period, 1.65%. If there's a change in president, that goes up to 1.85%. But you know what? It's going to start earlier, and it might even be stronger because we have had this piano taken off our backs.
All right, so the Santa Claus rally here. I like the sound of that, honestly. Do you agree? What are your thoughts?
It's possible. You always hear both sides of the table when people are speculating on the market and during certain time periods or certain event cycles. But here's the thing. There are ways to position your investments so that you can participate if the market's going to go up, but also incorporate a way to protect you on that downside. I mean, we always talk about having buffers on your money and airbags or hedging strategies. And so it's got to be kind of a strategic design in your investment plan strategy, because there are some tools out there that can be that use financial instruments, and the wealthy use this a lot, and they're using some hedging strategies that will benefit them even when the market goes down. You can make money when the market loses money and everybody else is losing money. So, if you kind of diversify your investment plan strategy to incorporate the tools that capture the upside and give you some market buffers on the downside, that's one way to go. Or if the market is going to go in the negative direction, there are ways to capitalize and make money that way. You can't do this in your traditional 401k mutual fund portfolio or your traditional model portfolio that is made up of a bunch of mutual funds. You have to use some different investment tools and techniques and strategies that are outside of the mutual fund sector. So the Wall Street side of the industry has so many different ways to manage money, to provide true diversification and create some opportunities, whether the markets go up or they go down. And this is something that we try to help people kind of get exposure to and implement in their planning, because if they do so, they're going to have more diversification, lower risk, and higher expectable or predictable rates of returns. And income planning is so important. When you get to that stage, that's the type of plan strategy that you need. You have to have something that's going to give you lower risk, predictability, and higher yields or higher income disbursements on a monthly basis. And this is probably the most critical portion of your time in retirement, is when you get close to retirement, having that personalized income distribution strategy put into place so that you don't have to worry about what the market's doing. So if you want a second opinion and you want some help in compiling a personalized investment plan strategy or retirement forecast, give us a call at 203-872-0009. We'd be happy to give you that second opinion and give you better clarity as to how things might look going forward.
For more details or to sit down with David for your complimentary financial GPS, visit masteringyourwealthradio.com. David Gagnon is an investment advisor representative of Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. First Financial Planners, Retirement Wealth Advisors, and WICC are not affiliated. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered financial advice or a recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Individuals should consult with a professional specializing in the fields of tax, legal, accounting, or investments regarding the applicability of this information for their situation. Past performance is not a guarantee of future result. Investments will fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested.